Never have the elite oligarchs of this world been given a gift like the criticism of activism as performative. So many of you are so afraid of being accused of this boogeyman of a word that you don't do anything. What the fuck is activism if not a performance? Activism is spectacle. There are performers and there is an audience. You are using visuals. You are trying to make people feel something or learn something. There are microphones and sound systems. There are people on stages. There is art and music and dancing and all kinds of performative aspects to activism. In fact, sometimes the more performative, the more likely you are to catch people's attention. And I'm showing you examples of a lot of real world performative activism, but guess what? If these real world forms of activism hadn't been posted on the internet, this movement wouldn't have gone global like it has. And so performance is everything. Oh my God, please free yourself of this fear of being called performative. Please, we need you to perform in the streets, on social media, both ideally. This term performative activism is such a perfect example of deference politics or weaponized identity politics, as Olufemi Otaiwo talks about in his book Elite Capture, which you'll also be familiar with if you read the first chapter of my book, where I talk about how deference politics is continually used by Zionists to silence speech about Palestine. I started to hear this term really become popularized in activist spaces in 2020. Prior to 2020, the term for ineffective, insincere, low risk, and online only activism was slacktivism. But as this article from 2020 attests to, the term performative activism really took off after Blackout Tuesday during the summer of 2020. Blackout Tuesday was actually started by two Black women in the music industry who, in the summer of protests in 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement following the police murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, they called for allies to post a black square to their social media profiles with the hashtag "the show must be paused," which at some point changed to Blackout Tuesday. While the protest was well-intentioned, it proved in practice to be strategically disastrous. This action was well-intentioned, but it turned out to be strategically disastrous because it was so easy, such a low bar to climb. Millions of people joined on, and the effect was that it literally blacked out the hashtag Black Lives Matter hashtag. There had been all this educational content under Black Lives Matter. There had been all these videos of actions and protests, and now all anybody was seeing when they searched Black Lives Matter was black squares. In the wake of Blackout Tuesday, there was a flurry of criticism of performative activism, because there were millions of people who did the Blackout Tuesday thing as the first and only thing they had ever done for Black Lives Matter movement. And the word that was used to criticize it more than any other was performative, because people had just wanted to perform in a very low stakes way that they were down with the movement to benefit from those optics without having to use their words or any critical thought or even putting their face and image and body on the line in order to do something for the movement. Which is why I think the word performative was a bad choice, because if anything, the failure of the Blackout Tuesday was that it wasn't performative enough. Nobody had to actually perform to participate. They just had to put a black square in their profile. It was a bad action. It was an unstrategic action. It was an unsuccessful action with unintended negative consequences. And so I'm convinced that maybe on some level, the taking the football and running with it with the word performative, and in subsequent years, the weaponization of this word against any viral social media campaigns that are trying to make a difference, I'm convinced that's fed up shit. The frustrations of Black activists like Feminista Jones in this article that I'm quoting were totally valid. It's totally understandable that these Black activists who had been putting their whole body, their whole persona, their whole performance on the line in the streets and online would be frustrated with white people stepping into this movement with the lowest bar of actions that also proved to kind of wipe the slate of everything they'd accomplished so far. That frustration was completely valid. Unfortunately, due to white fragility, A lot of white people like took that frustration and shut down and said, oh, I tried to do something and I got criticized for it, so I'm never going to try to do any kind of activism online ever again. And people that are invested in keeping the status quo the same way have been feeding that feeling in white people. Taiwo warns us that some anti-racist educators, some people who make a career about that, are not actually comrades fighting for liberation. They are well paid by elites to maintain a status quo and funnel activism into socially acceptable, meaningless wheel spinning that will prevent any real change that could threaten the power of elites. And those types of anti-racist educators have taken this feeling in white people of this fear of being performative, and they have stoked it. And they have made careers off of stoking it, off of telling white people to sit down and shut up and stay silent. But my God, at a time when Palestinian and undocumented and Black and brown people are being arrested for saying no to genocide, if you are white and relatively financially stable and have US citizenship, guys, it's us to the front. We are protected by those privileges, so we need to be using them to perform activism. If you try to do some kind of activism and it turns out that it's unsuccessful or unstrategic, try something else. If you do an activism and you get criticized for it, use your critical thinking. Is this criticism valid? Or is it just someone tearing down morality? Could it be a Fed or a Mossad agent launching this criticism? Let me show you an example. Here was a guy in the comments of my video about the fast for Gaza saying, comrades, lol, this is theatrics, you're soft AF, seemingly calling out the performativeness of the fast for Gaza. If you were just skimming by and trusting what you see in the comments at face value, you might think this is someone who's like stuck in doing really hardcore, real activism, and you should listen to them and not do this fast for Gaza because it's soft. But I took a second to look at this person's profile, which all it said about them was that they were a car enthusiast, which doesn't really seem compatible with the like Marxist revolutionary persona they seem to be coming from. And after I called them comrade car enthusiasts, they mask off showed that they are a Zionist, saying, Palestine will never be free, posting the Israeli flag a bunch of times. This was an Israeli Mossad sock puppet or a Zionist who is just trying to tear down morale among, online Palestine activists. I went on to thank this person for their engagement, for helping me in the algorithm, and they tried another tactic to demoralize me, saying algorithms don't win wars, the internet, doesn't make a difference, you're soft AF, you don't have what it takes to win. But if the internet don't matter, why you say so on internet? Why Israel spend $150 million to shape public opinion about them on internet? The internet matters massively. The internet is real life. The internet is why there's a global movement for Palestine, and all the activism isn't just in Palestine. So let me perform for you again. Today I'm participating again in the hashtag Fast for Gaza. I found out this challenge was started by Guy Christensen. Sorry for not giving him credit yesterday. I hadn't seen the original video yet. If you can't do all parts of this challenge, that's fine. I'm not actually fasting because I'm breastfeeding. But, other people are skipping a meal, donating what they would spend on that meal to someone feeding people in Gaza. And then something I missed was that Guy is also asking people to nominate a celebrity or someone else they know or some kind of influencer to do the fast with them. I'm going to be posting some links in my stories of some organizations and individual families you can donate to, and also Palestine Legal, which is a legal fund for protesters who are facing legal consequences for putting their lives on the line for Gaza. And I'm nominating everybody watching this to do the same. And the other performative activism I'm performing for you is hashtag Protect Palestine, where you hold up a sign saying, I support military intervention to stop Gaza genocide. And this doesn't have to mean, in your mind, imperialistic military intervention. Armed resistance is military intervention. So for me, I see this campaign as about normalizing the necessity of armed resistance when it's about stopping mass murder. I hope you enjoyed the performance, and I can't wait to see all of yours.